Do you like my haircut?
Yeah, you're switching it up a little bit. You stopped doing the like really short sides
I did.
because we were looking so indistinguishable. So I mean,
I know it was too confusing for people.
exactly. Welcome to Unqualified Opinion, the podcast that is rapidly running out of openers. How's it going, Scott?
I'm doing well. Still recovering from New Orleans by drinking, and I don't know. It's so nasty here. It's the snowiest February since ever recorded. I mean, since the
Is it really?
Yeah, it's since the 1800s, since they first began taking records. And it's more than 2 feet of snow, but unlike like New England or other places where it snows for 2 feet and it melts, it snowed 2 feet and just stays because it's 10 degrees outside. And so Fahrenheit, I don't know, negative whatever Celsius. I was taking a walk today, and all of the sidewalks are just compacted snow by now because people walk before the shoveling happens. So when you shovel, you can't get everything off, and it just compacts. So everything is just compacted snow. And someone had some magical substance by which they got rid of all of the snow. I don't know what kind of awful chemical it was, but I hit their sidewalk, and okay, so you watch Rick and Morty. It's like the Rick and Morty one where it's like true level. And then Morty, it was like that. I stopped, and I'm like, oh my God, it's real ground. It was so nice. And the last area block, I went back to like 2 inches of packed snow. But anyway, it's just, I feel kind of gross because I didn't go outside at all today except for a 10-minute walk just because I felt so guilty. I had to get out of the house.
Man, I must be really spoiled because I was complaining today about a little bit of a drizzle.
Oh my God, I want a little bit of drizzle.
Yeah, I've got perfect level everywhere in DC, so things are going pretty well.
How about you?
I'm pretty good. Do you remember how we did a podcast about weights and weight training? I actually started switching up my exercise recently, and so when my brother came to visit, which was over the holidays, he introduced me to ring exercises. So I started doing a lot of rings. So I do my pull-ups on rings now. I do my dips on rings. I do L-sits, which is when you pull up on the rings and you try to bring your legs in front of you as straight as possible. I do back lever. All of these exercises, I do push-ups on the rings. And there is this giant set of rings in my gym that hang, and nobody uses them. And just so that everyone knows, my gym is full of super, super ripped people. Both the men and the women are so much bigger.
The people at his gym are so attractive. I remember it when I was a guest one time. I never wanted to leave.
No, but they're intimidatingly fit. And here rocks up this one short Asian dude who can barely lift half of what they can, and then does the dumbest things on the rings because I'm not actually good at this stuff yet, right? So I'm just struggling through the rings. I'm like the one person using the rings. I'm not as fit as anyone else there, so that it's quite a sight.
Steve thinks he's not fit. He's actually fairly fit, but he's self-deprecating. Okay, maybe not. Well, okay, maybe that is true. My new routine is not going to the gym.
That's what happens when you have 15 feet of snow.
It's bad. Well, I've been so busy at work this month. This has been the month from hell, and I also took 2 vacations this month because I'm a government worker and I like to vacation. With my generous time off, Steve. I'm sorry. I actually, when I got to New Orleans 3 days early last week, and I thought I was going to work. Of course, a little voice in the back of my head is like, you know you're not going to work. You know you're not going to work off-site. And lo and behold, I worked an hour, and I said I actually worked 8. But, you know, the math...
Wait, you actually logged 8 hours when you only worked 1?
I thought 8 hours. About work.
Okay.
That's work. I was thinking. This
Are you
podcast
serious right now?
No.
Are you serious? You're logging 8 hours for walking around New Orleans thinking about your job?
No,
I don't think that counts.
I'm joking. Anyone who listens to this podcast who happens to know me, I'm joking. Especially coworkers.
Yeah, Scott works very, very hard while he's really drunk in a bar listening to jazz.
Yeah. I was doing field research. No, I don't. That's bogus.
It inspires me to think about policy.
Anyway, what were we talking? Oh yeah, well, the problem is it's so cold. I don't want to go to the gym because you have to put on 10 layers to go out the door. I usually take a bus to the gym because it's like a mile from my house, but there's a direct bus, so it's just easier. But the bus is always late because of the snow. And then you get there, and then when you're trying to come back, you always miss the bus coming back. So you either have to work out longer or sit there on your phone.
I'm just saying excuses. Stop being a little.
There's a lot of excuses, and then I just seasonal depressive disorder, and I already mentioned the work, and my glove is ripped slightly, and my toe hurts.
I'm glad you were able to think of enough excuses to keep yourself at home. I mean, it's something.
And my knee hurts, so I can't go downstairs to use my weights. That's another thing.
Yeah, you have weights in your house. Come on. You don't even need to go outside. You have a whole basement that's only used for the gym and for laundry.
That is true.
No excuse.
That is true.
All right.
No,
boy. Okay.
Anyway,
so why don't we get into what we're drinking? Yeah. Scott, what are you drinking tonight?
I'm drinking a mojito that it is a mojito is 4 parts. 4 parts. Oh no. 3. 3 parts rum, 2 parts lime. No, 4 parts. I know this. Steve, hang on a second.
All right.
It's 4 parts rum, 3 parts lime, 2 parts sugar, water, simple syrup. Oh, and I forgot the club soda, but I forgot to put that in here, and I also screwed up the ratio. But
so let me guess, you didn't actually measure any of that. You just eyeballed.
I did, but I accidentally put way more lime in than I put more rum in than lime. But it tastes fine because there's more rum in it. And then I put mint, and you muddle it up. It's actually very good. I feel like a stronger drink, but if I go back for another one, I remember now the ratio. I thinking it was a different ratio.
You always you very frequently end up making quite nice drinks. I do appreciate that whenever I'm visiting.
Quite nice is yes.
Better than the whiskey that I take out of a bottle, which is my usual drink of choice.
Well, I it's a treat for myself and for you, and I don't know. It reminds me of somewhere warmer than I am now. What are you drinking?
Warmer. I'm drinking a wine from Chile.
That's not
it's a
warm.
Pinot Noir. It's called. I'm gonna butcher this again because I can't do.
It has
any languages.
It has a screw top.
Del Valle.
It has a screw top. I see.
It has a screw top. I was gonna say that. so it's again called El Viejo de Valle, and it is a screw top. But I realized that recently there are actually a lot of wines that have screw tops that are quite good.
Yeah.
And this one was like $15. I bought it at a local liquor store, and it's quite nice. I really like Pinot Noir, actually. I don't know a lot about wine, but the one thing I do know is that this is one that I can consistently go to and know that I'll have a good experience. So,
have you drunk this multiple times?
No, they were just doing a tasting. What I'm saying is that Pinot Noir as a type of wine is one that I'll go toward. Right, because it's a little bit darker, it's a little bit more bitter. It's not super sweet. It's got a richer flavor than a lot of the other standard ones like Cabernet Sauvignon, which is boring. You know?
Yes. Steve, you missed your calling as a sommelier. Tell me more. Tell me more about it. Tell me about its floral notes and its tannins. Tell me, Steve. Tell me.
Don't understand.
Tell me about it.
Take a sip. Yes, I can tell
Oh
that the
my
grapes
God!
were 3 years aged. In an oak
Okay,
barrel.
never mind. Never mind.
All right. Oh boy. Okay. So should we talk about this episode? What we're gonna do? So
Yeah.
here's the story. I randomly, after one of our episodes, went onto Amazon and bought a little book called The Book of Questions.
Just so everyone knows, Steve's hobby is going on Amazon and randomly buying things.
That's how I got my Roomba.
I was just gonna say that's how you ended up with the Roomba.
Pro tip for anyone listening, for all the 2 people listening now, because I'm guessing we upgraded from 1 to 2 at this point. For all the 2 people listening, buy a Roomba, buy a mid-level Roomba at around the $300 to $400 range, and it will change your life.
How many cleaning ladies could you buy for $300 and $400?
You can buy it's about $50 each time when you have someone clean. But
they
the
do a much
benefit of a
better
Roomba.
job.
So here's the thing, right? People say don't get a Roomba because you're still going to have to clean anyway because the Roomba's not going to do a good job. That's not the point. The point is you can reduce the frequency at which you clean, and you can automate an easily automatable task for an initial sum of $300 to $400, right? Think about all the time you save. Extend that over several years.
Well, I think Roombas, we've gone way off track here, but let me just say this. I really think Roombas aren't going to be widely accepted until they can fly, because I need to clean my countertops, right? Or like the top of my toilet or the top of the sink, right? So the Roomba or the cleaning robot has to be able to hover up to like 3 feet to get onto the countertop.
So we need a Roomba drone. Yeah, and that would be a great invention.
I mean, wouldn't you agree, Steve? I mean, yeah, the floor is one of the easiest things to clean.
But it still takes time. What I'm saying is that for people who value that time and don't actually enjoy cleaning, it's nice to be able to significantly reduce the frequency at which you have to do that, and also changes your behavior around things like countertops. So
it makes
oftentimes
you sloppier.
I will just no. So I will oftentimes just throw crumbs off of my countertop to the floor, knowing that when I leave the house in 10 minutes, the Roomba will go and clean it up, and it will consistently do that. So I can alter my behavior to live a more relaxed way, because I know that the Roomba is taking over this stuff. Sure, it doesn't do everything, and it can't fly, and it can't take over countertops and things, but it can automate a small portion of the annoyance of maintaining your house. And it's one of potentially many future incremental improvements that'll make everyone's lives a lot easier when it comes to that kind of maintenance. Anyway,
I think a dog is the same thing. But anyway, let's go on. Let's move on.
No, a dog actually makes things messier. Okay,
on.
So speaking of random topics, we are going to be going through a bunch of questions in this book. So I bought a book called The Book of Questions. It was marketed as having 300 random questions. There are actually only 291. And the thing is, we haven't actually looked at any of these questions. So I have the book. Scott does not have the book, and neither of us have looked at the questions. So what we're going to do for this episode is Scott will yell out random numbers. I will read that question. And if it's worth talking about, which it might be a dumb one, who knows, then we will discuss our opinions on that topic and see where it goes. We're not sure how many of them we'll get through. I guess it depends on how long it takes for me to drink this bottle of wine.
What? How many? 1 through 2. What? 2.
1 through 291.
291. Okay.
Yeah. So, give me a number and we'll get started.
82.
82.
82.
So here's the question: you are offered $5 million to play a variant of Russian roulette. Before you are 10 pistols, one loaded. You must pick a pistol, point it at your forehead, and pull the trigger. If you walk away, you do so a multimillionaire. Would you take the shot?
No.
Why not?
So that's a 1 in 10 chance. Okay, it's a 1 in 10 chance of dying, and I don't really care that much about money, so it's pretty evident to me.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Maybe if I was in more dire straits, or there was some desperate reason why I needed that kind of money, I would take it. But I mean, I make a reasonable enough salary. I live a reasonable enough life that I have too much to lose.
Maybe if you're homeless and have been like homeless for your entire life, and
or you have some kind
dejected.
of serious illness and you know you're going to
Serious
die
illness.
if you don't have cure. Some way
yeah.
to cure it.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Okay, so Steve and I agree. No, right?
Yeah, that's a pretty easy one. It's a good one to warm up with.
Mm-hmm.
Next number.
Okay. 1.
1?
That was an easy number to think of.
It's taking me surprisingly long to get to this. All right, great. Technology has become a part of us. Would you rather lose the use of all motorized vehicles, all telecommunication devices, and computers, or one of your hands?
Wait, what?
Would you
what
rather
kind of question
lose...
is that?
Would you... It's the question here.
Oh.
Would you rather lose the use of all motorized vehicles, all telecommunication devices, and computers, or one of your hands?
Well, now that's big. It depends, right? It depends on the context. So, are there systems? Is society ready to lose all of that? Now, is it saying just you would lose that, or everybody would lose that? I would assume everybody, because if just you lost it, you could go get it from someone else.
No. Just you.
Just
and you
me.
will, for certain reasons inherent in the way that this deal works, not be able to engage with those things.
You need to add, like, subtitles to each of these questions. like, explanations. Okay, so
well,
that's...
We're just going with it. So.
Okay. I don't know. What about you? I don't know. What do you think? Can I choose which hand?
I'm trying to think of what it would mean to actually lose access to all this technology. So, first off, I wouldn't be able to keep my job. I'd probably have to move out to a remote wilderness, drastically change my lifestyle, possibly increase my probability of death, be completely socially ostracized, or lose one of my hands and still be able to live within this life. And to me, it's a pretty obvious trade-off. I would lose one of my hands. Ideally, my right hand, because I'm a left-handed person. And here is why I would do that. The first example makes you completely isolated within our current interconnected world. Social isolation has been heavily documented and proven to increase risk of suicide, to decrease your standard of living, to increase depression. A whole bunch of research has been done on that. There are a lot of negative effects to that. In addition, if you lose all of the or certain elements of your life that provide you meaning and value, which to me as a software engineer, for instance, I would have to get rid of my job, that would be a significant loss as well. Now, if I lost one of my hands, this question isn't saying that I couldn't get a prosthetic.
Oh, brother, but it is saying that only you... now, you are interpreting this question in a way that is beneficial to the answer that you want to give.
No, I'm not. It's saying, would you rather lose all of the use of this stuff or one of your hands? So I'm trying to stay within the confines of this. If I lose one of my hands, I could always get a prosthetic or I could wait. It would be difficult, but there are technological solutions to the biological limitation. And here's an important point here. I would rather take a biological deficit than limit my technological consumption, at least when it comes to this question.
I think I agree with Steve. If I can have a prosthetic hand that you can't tell. Because my challenge is if you lose your hand and weren't able to replace it, I think you would be shunned. I mean, yes, we like to pretend we're in a society that like ignores any physical deformities or lack of physical pieces, but we're really not. And you are always gonna be getting those side eyes, and you go on a date, and they're like, "Oh, you only have one hand. Never mind." Like, so that would be very, very, and you could, it'd be hard to get a job, etc. So
yeah, so you still face like social ostracization.
You would,
right?
You would. Yeah. And I walk everywhere, and it doesn't say you can't fly. So, and I love biking. So for me, the vehicle is a little less, and I also am like a Luddite somewhat, more so than Steve. So that bothers me a little less. I would lose that, but if I could replace the hand with a hand that looks just the same, that you couldn't tell, then I would say yes. I'd rather.
I mean, we would be dealing with current technology, so I don't think that. I mean, there isn't technology like that now, but I mean, give it 5 to 10 years of yeah, we'll probably get there.
Or I just get a big hook, because that is cool.
You know what the obvious answer should have been for one of us to say is obviously lose a hand, because otherwise we'd have to stop this podcast. And the podcast is more important than one of my hands. All right. Next question. What's the number?
Oh, God. Wait, I've done 2 odd numbers, right? No, I did an even and an odd. I'm going to go back to an even. 34. I'm putting way too much thought into random number generation.
Okay, here. We have another telecommunications one. If all online interactions and web browsing had to be under your real name and would be recorded and archived, how would it alter your use of the internet and the way you communicate with people?
Oh, okay. So this is actually a really interesting question for me. So I am, for those of you who haven't heard previous podcasts, I'm bi, and then so I'm on like Grindr and Tinder, and I'm also okay. How much should I say?
Whatever you want to.
I'm also very, I'll say, I like new sexual experiences. Just leave it at that. And it used to be that I would be very coy and hide my identity, and it was harder to actually interact with people genuinely in that context. Because I was like trying to, I don't know, it just feels more genuine when you could just say, my name is Scott, and, you know, I work in government, like, and I live in Minnesota, like, whatever. And it just helped me be more authentic, which helped me make better connections. And I'm realizing, well, other people I'm interacting with on these platforms, like, you know, Grindr, Tinder, wherever else, they're also there, and, like, they're looking for genuine connections. So I should be genuine. And so I guess, I mean, it didn't really change how I acted, but I think it changed it a little bit that I used my real name and whatnot. They can look me up. I mean, I'm also not the thing is, I'm not active on social media.
So you're saying that you've always valued being genuine, even if your interactions are through the internet?
Yeah. Yeah, I have. And, but I think that's different because I don't have a big social media presence, which can be a liability, because it's a lot easier to find you and like, I mean, I guess blackmail is not out of the question, but I have I'd never post to Facebook. I don't even go on Facebook. I don't have.
So,
yeah, go on.
Have you done anything, in terms of communication across the internet through an alias ever?
Yes.
Okay, what's that been like?
I don't know. I mean,
like, has it been a different kind of experience?
Not really. Not significantly, no. No. I don't know. So what was the question again?
It's saying if all of your online interactions had to be through your actual name, how would it change your communication with people?
I don't think it would.
But it sounds like you already do it that way.
I already do it that way.
So I guess in this sense, I'm pretty similar to Scott in that I don't really have any social media presence. I don't have a Twitter account as of right now. I have a Facebook account that I haven't posted on in about 4 years, and I almost never go on to. Occasionally, if my roommate's hosting a party, he forces me to go on and add myself as a host. So that's about it. Yeah, and so first off, my extent of communication on the internet is very, very limited. In addition, the communication that I have had has been through my actual name. So I guess neither of us are in much of a position to talk from the vantage point of someone who heavily uses aliases or has a strong need to keep their name anonymous. So in that sense, I don't think that I would really alter my internet usage. I already try very hard to stay away from social media. I think that there is a significant negative psychological impact to extensive use of social media. And so because of that, naturally, all of my conversations tend to be toward the goal of leading to face-to-face communication or getting some kind of explicit work done instead of cultivating an online presence. So in that sense, none of it would really change. I do think it's an interesting concept, though, because there have been conversations recently about Twitter, and Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey has said that this is definitely not going to happen. But a lot of advocates for transparency in Twitter have been advocating the use of real names, and Jack Dorsey's been pushing back against that because anonymity is important for entities like journalists who don't want to expose certain sources and stuff like that. So it's an interesting concept. I'm wondering what your thoughts are in terms of whether or not we should, on social media platforms, enforce real names.
Well, we do. I mean, Facebook does it insofar as. I mean, Facebook generally does it, right? I haven't.
It does, yeah.
I haven't created a Facebook account since I first created my Facebook account like a decade ago, so I can't remember. But
yeah, but sites like Twitter definitely doesn't.
No. Snapchat
doesn't. You can stretch it and say, yeah, Snapchat. Also YouTube, if you can stretch and say that's social media, which it really isn't, but kind of sites.
Yeah, I would agree. It's probably better to keep it anonymous. Although I was listening to a story the other day about how difficult it is to actually figure out how to censor content because you have to apply the same standards to everyone, and that makes it extremely difficult to come up with a universal code of conduct.
Yeah, because surprise, surprise, context actually matters.
It does. And that's why it's so difficult. But I know Twitter is used a lot in countries where there is, an opposition political party, and often they'll organize protests, rallies, etc. through Twitter, and the whole point of that is it's anonymous. So I think it helps definitely in certain very positive cases. It also leads to trolling, right? I think that's kind of where this question is going at. I mean, I don't know about Steve, but I don't troll people. I'm 100% sure Steve does not either. So I think that's kind of where it was maybe getting at. Like, what do you do things
I think
that
that's where it was intended. Here, the thing about it for me so I'll just say this one point, and then we can move on to another question. Scott, you can give me a number. But I think that when it comes to this issue of transparency, it's really easy to say within the context of, say, Western modern democracies like the United States, it's clear that there's, in a lot of people's mind, no risk really in providing your name on a platform like Twitter. The problem is that applying those kinds of rules universally, as Scott mentioned, in certain countries, makes it very dangerous for certain people to express their opinions. And so because of that, enforced transparency often takes away tools for empowerment for disempowered people in a lot of places. And so it's a really difficult topic, and any kind of regulation around that kind of content has to keep that in mind. Anyway, let's go on to another
it's
question.
a very complicated topic.
You have a number?
27.
27?
27.
Staying in the under 100.
But by the way, Steve,
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what day it was on Tuesday of this week? He doesn't know.
No.
It's my birthday.
Was it?
Yes.
Oh my God! Happy birthday! I did not realize that. Let me write that into my calendar so that I don't.
The
forget
only
that
reason
next year.
I know
I'm
your
so
birthday
sorry.
is I put it in my calendar. Otherwise,
Well, yeah.
I don't even know what month it would be in.
Wait, so it was last Tuesday or this coming
Last
Tuesday?
Tuesday.
Oh my God! I can't believe I forgot that. I'm so sorry. Scott's
I am
birthday.
guilting Steve hardcore.
Let me just write this down here. I feel so bad. I'm so sorry.
The 20th, I believe.
Oh man. Okay, so the 20th of every year.
The 20th of every year.
Birthday in February. All right, let me just write this down real quick. We can edit this out. Save
I think
this.
it's kind of cute.
And then go like edit here. How do I do this
He
again?
looks so sheepish.
I'm so sorry. What'd you do for your birthday?
Nothing, because I had a billion events this week and I didn't have any time in the evening. But I did go out with my brother. We had drinks at a distillery just up the street from me. So that was nice.
Oh, nice. Which one?
It's new. Du Nord, like French, like from the north. Du Nord. The problem was it was cool because they distilled everything out. They had gin, whiskey, like an apple brandy or something, and vodka. All four of those, and then like a coffee infused something. They distilled all five of them in house, and then you could buy bottles of them in different sizes, which was kind of cool. And they're actually relatively cheap. They were like for a craft distilled, half of a handle was $17, which I don't know. It just seems pretty reasonable to me, I guess.
That seems very reasonable. Only in Minnesota.
Yeah. But the problem for me was I was really in the mood for a not sweet drink, and literally everything on their menu had some form of sugar in it. Even the really spicy one was a little too sweet. So, my one critique. Anyway, back to the questions.
Anyway, yeah, question number 27 is...
Oh, you said okay, wait, it goes up to 200 what?
It goes up to 291.
Let's do 203. Let's get up there.
You don't want to do number 27.
No. Let's go to 203. Yeah.
Okay.
It'll be much better.
So no one's ever gonna know what 27 was. I mean, go by the book, but whatever. 203. All right. If you If you were Man, this is I don't know about this one.
Okay, read it.
If you were attracted to someone, which is the amount I read, and I thought, oh, interesting, and then you'll see. If you were attracted to someone of another race, in what ways, if any, would your behavior with them differ from that with someone of your own race?
Oh!
And then there's a follow-up question on here, which I'm going to wait until after you say your response.
Okay.
And be honest.
Shit.
You want to first say your race? Is that
I'm white.
helpful?
I am a white cis male. I have all the privilege. Steve's making a face at me. Steve is an Asian male.
Well, you're bi. I don't know if that...
I am bi, actually. Steve is a straight Asian male, so he actually has more privilege than I do, so...
Aha! Yeah. The tables have turned. We are rising.
Actually, yeah, if I was a gay white male, I would have more privilege than you, because gays now have...
You're only thinking on 3 dimensions. You have to think across all 173 dimensions, or else you don't know.
Oh, no. Okay, let's not even get into that. So, shit. I am actually, not as attracted to people who are, okay, this is... It's a hard...
We'll see if we have to edit it out.
Okay, I'm going to just talk like I'm not on a podcast, okay?
Yeah.
Okay. We have to edit. We have to edit it out. We can edit it out.
We're leaving it in. Go ahead.
So, I am just found in dating in general. I am generally less attracted to the African American race, just objectively speaking, sexually.
Both men and women.
Men and women. I don't know why that is. I'm just less sexually attracted. I am more sexually attracted to people of other ethnicities. I mean, the two other ones being Hispanic. Well, I guess that's an ethnicity. Asian is a race. And I guess I find people who I am comfortable with, who I'm interested in, and sexually, I treat similarly, because I have gone on dates with white, Hispanic, and Asian people. So, and I really don't see myself I don't feel like I'm acting differently. I really don't. So I guess I answered the question. I really don't feel like I act differently. Do they think I act differently? I don't know, but I feel like I don't know. If I were to go on a date with an African American person, I feel like I'm not actually sexually attracted to this, and also, being a white male, as you know, there is a long history of not great relationships between African Americans and whites. So there's a lot of baggage loaded into that. And I think any couple who's white and black has to deal with that, because it's such a strong history in America.
I think for me, one thing about this question is really difficult for me to answer, because as Scott knows, and I'm not sure if the listeners know this, I'm half white and I'm half Japanese. Right, so on my dad's side, my dad grew up in the States, but he was Western and Northern European. So some Scandinavian, some Irish, mix of that pretty much. And so I grew up in Japan, where Japan has a very insular culture, and in a lot of places in Japan, it's difficult as someone who doesn't look purely Japanese to be seen as fully integrated into the culture. So I was never fully accepted. I was actually much more accepted in the States, but for me, it's really difficult to answer a question that says if you're attracted to someone of another race, especially when it's hard to pinpoint what my race is supposed to be, right? Because I think anyone in the States would look at me and definitely not think that I'm white. At the same time, people in Japan wouldn't think that I'm Japanese. So it's tricky for me to figure that out, because my entire life I've kind of been treated in a way that doesn't put me into a very neatly lined box, right? And so I've tried to take that outlook with other people. Yes, I am more or less attracted to different people. If you look at the broad statistical average, I mean, there are beautiful women from every single race.
Yes.
And I do think that I have biases. If I'm being honest, I am more attracted to Asian women. So
the record does show that.
A truth. It does. And I do believe, and I think this is interesting, that it has something to do with upbringing. I grew up, especially during my years in puberty, in Japan, where I was surrounded by a lot more Asian women than of any other culture, especially in a country like Japan, where the diversity is much lower than most places in the U.S., even though I was growing up in Tokyo. And so I think that has a strong influence on it. That isn't to say that I'm exclusively attracted to Asian women or anything like that. And I don't want to get into the whole, the Asian, the yellow fever thing. That's a whole nother topic.
Steve,
we won't get into that.
Steve, do you have half yellow fever? Steve has half yellow fever. 50%.
Oh, man.
50% yellow fever.
This episode is going into some interesting places.
That's actually
I think
a very
we should move on to another
interesting question. Anyway,
it is. So here's the second part of that question that I do really want to get to, because I think that this is even more interesting. Building on the first one, if you were attracted to someone of another race, this says, what about someone devoted to a different religion or immersed in a very different culture?
Oh, I actually don't really, personally, I don't really care. I wouldn't act differently. If their culture or religion made them act in ways that was not congruent with my lifestyle within reason, like, of course, I'm a flexible person and I understand people have different backgrounds and cultures and religions and whatnot. But if, for example, they had to wear a hijab, I don't know if I would be okay with that. Or if they couldn't, I don't know, if they're a vegan. Never mind. I'm joking. I love vegans.
Vegan is a rough one. Vegan is rough because you have to cook together to establish part of your relationship. That's kind of hard.
I wouldn't mind vegan. I wouldn't mind vegan. But I'm trying to think of a culture thing. Like if it was an extremely misogynistic culture that they were coming from, and like the man owns and does everything, I would also not be okay with that.
Okay, what about someone who's exceedingly religious? And for full disclosure, neither of us are very religious. So as an opposite to you, Scott, what about someone who's very, very religious? Let's say like a fundamentalist Christian or something like that.
I would date and maybe even marry someone who's religious. I don't think that really bothers me because I completely understand the why.
Wait, but I'm not saying religious, but extremely.
Well, I'm getting there, and then I'm saying, but if they're like, excuse me, so religious that you couldn't even have a conversation about it, I guess that's where I draw the line. If I can't have a conversation with you, and if you can't understand why I believe what I do and like you're okay with that, then I wouldn't.
This is helping me formulate my own response to it. And I think part of it is this. I want to make sure that anyone I have a relationship with is open to a free expression of ideas and a debate of those values, the values that come from those ideas. Mm-hmm. So as long as someone is open to discussing why they have certain values and open to hearing from another person why they have values, trying hard not to prejudge them, and have a respectful conversation about the divergence of those values, someone coming from that fundamental position is someone who I would be comfortable dating and open to. When it comes to changing my behavior, I think it's hard, if I'm being honest, to prevent myself from subconsciously changing my behavior based on certain people. I think, honestly, given my rotten personality, I'd probably double down harder on the things that piss those people off. But I think that kind of openness and willingness to discuss would be the first thing to look for, and if not, then compatibility would be different.
This podcast is raising so many questions that I want to ask that we can't because it would go off topic, because we never go off topic. Okay, next question.
Yeah, we've never done
we
that.
We never do that. Next question. 193.
193. Let's see.
Steve, you answer this one first because I'm gonna okay, you answer this one first. I'm gonna mute this so I can make another drink, which is a little bit noisy.
Great, go for it. Do you ever spit, clean your teeth, or pick your nose in public? Moment of honesty right here. Scott is breaking down laughing, but you can't hear him because he just muted himself. So I will do this first. Do I ever spit in public? Yes, I do. When I'm running, I will spit on the street. It is okay because DC streets are pretty disgusting. So I think that makes it valid. Clean your teeth in public. Okay, so let me be honest. I don't really understand what the issue is here. Because if we're talking about like going to a bathroom and brushing your teeth in a public bathroom, that's totally fine. Even though I don't carry a toothbrush, I'm not a weirdo, so I don't do that. If we're talking about like using your hand to scrape at your teeth, first off, that's not cleaning your teeth. That is not doing anything actually effective. So just stop it. Don't do that. Get a toothbrush. Use the goddamn toothbrush or gargle. Like, come on, let's be real. So no, I don't do that. If it's the toothbrush one, I accept it, but I don't do it that often, you know. Do you pick your nose in public? This is the big one, right? People want to know who picks their nose still when they're already 27 going on 28 in a month. I've definitely picked my nose in public, if I'm being honest. Sometimes it gets really annoying. Have you ever like noticed a restriction in your breathing and you press on the side of your nostril and you notice there's a big bump in there, and then all you can think of at that moment is, I need to get this bump out. What the hell is this? You know you're going to pick your nose. You need to get it out. And sometimes there's no one looking and you have a busy day, you have a busy schedule. You don't want to be unproductive at your employer's expense. Clearly, it's much more productive and effective if you just subtly pick that out, toss it in the garbage, wipe your hand, and continue on your day. So I think that really the fact that I pick my nose occasionally is a sign of me being a respectful and diligent employee. What about you, Scott? Are you done with that drink?
So I was gonna say that's the dumbest. That's like Donald Trump level of rationalization. That was bad. But I completely agree. So okay, going back to the first one, I actually don't. I'm not one of those people in the like Wild West who have a spittoon and spit. I don't enjoy spitting.
No, but sometimes you're on a run.
That's what I
really
agree
gross.
with Steve. Like if I am on a run, I may spit.
That's the only
really
time.
Will blow my nose.
That's gross.
That is not gross. Have you seen a marathon or like I've been in a half marathon. That's the grossest thing. There's like people blowing their noses and spitting all over the place. It's disgusting. Anyway, so yes, I do that. I have no shame about it.
Well, the problem with blowing your nose while you're running is you can't control it.
No, make sure there's no one to the left or right
pretty
of you.
high. What?
Make sure there's no one on either side of you. I'm not looking at you.
All right.
Anyway,
the next one is clean your teeth.
See, I also don't understand that. I mean, is it talking about like those little toothpicks you get from restaurants to pick your teeth with? Because I don't do that. Like
those are totally ineffective.
If I feel something like stuck in between my teeth, I will go into the bathroom, or if I am at my desk and no one's looking, I will pick it. I can feel it. I can pick it out. Like if I have a piece of corn, I don't know what. I mean, it's something that's like very evident. Do I just?
Yeah, that one's a weird one. What about picking your nose?
In public, yes, I'm with you on that. Yes, I completely echo what you just said.
Yeah,
I don't rationalize it as saying I'm a good employee and I should get a bonus for doing so. But
I never said I should get a bonus, just a raise.
Okay. Anyway,
all right.
Next question.
Next question. What number?
144. 144. 144.
Oh.
Uh-oh.
You ready for this?
Oh.
After a medical examination, your doctor calls and says you have a rare lymphatic cancer and only a month to live. A week later, she informs you that the lab test was wrong and you're perfectly healthy. Do you think the insights from having having to face death this way would be worth the pain? Oh man, that's less interesting than I thought it would be. I was hoping that it just ended at the month to live, and what would you do?
Oh, yeah.
That would be a much more interesting question. Do you want to answer that question? Yeah, let's say after a medical examination, your doctor calls and says you have a rare lymphatic cancer and only a month to live. what do you do?
Well, I don't. That's such a typical question. What do I?
Yeah, but I want to hear your answer.
What do I do?
Yeah.
Well, right now I don't have any children, so I don't have people to leave a retirement or leave any sort of inheritance for. So, and I don't have a lot of money either. So what I would do is I would actually, no, I probably wouldn't sell my house. I'd leave that to my brother or someone who could, probably my brother. I'd give it to my brother in a will. But I would cash out all of my retirement savings. Who cares about the fees? And because I don't get that till the tax time. And I would buy a old motorhome and a Jeep. No, like an old, like a little. Hang on a second. A little trailer and a Jeep. Okay. Like so I could sleep in, and I would drive off into the wilderness, and I would go to all of the national parks. I would backpack. I would hike. I would go up to I would drive up to Alaska. And by the time I'd be done, because I'm backpacking and hiking, I'd be saving my money. By the time I'm done, I'd have no money. I'd be in really good shape, and I'd die. I love being in nature. I love being in nature. I absolutely love it. Yeah.
Yeah, my answer is very different. So, what I would do is I would cash out all my money, get everything I have, fly down to Miami, buy all the drugs, and go crazy.
For a year?
That's what I would do if I had a month.
It's a month?
Is it a year? I mean, if I had a year, I would do that in the last month. And before that, I would probably buy a sailboat.
You don't know how to sail.
Yeah, but if I die, I mean...
Who cares?
Just, exactly. I'd probably buy a sailboat, take my drugs with me, hang out on the sailboat in the last month, dock in Miami, hang out.
So that's really interesting.
That's what I would do.
Yeah, that's okay. That tells
I
me
mean,
your personality.
Just in the same way. Okay, trying to actually justify my ridiculous decision here, in the same way that it's incredibly valuable when it comes to human experience to go and experience all these places in nature. Isn't it very valuable to experience all the different possible states of mind you could be in on different drugs and really experience the limits of where your notion of self and your cognition can stretch to?
I actually agree with that. I would do that probably too. I would want to have some really effed up sex on really crazy drugs while partying.
Yes, exactly. And then, all right, so just to be fair to this book, let's actually answer this question. Okay. So say you have the disease, you only have a month to live. Week later, you're informed that you're actually perfectly healthy. Do you think the insights from having to face death this way would be worth the pain?
Well...
So for 1 week... So you are told you have a month to live. Then a week goes by and you're told actually you're fine. Is that experience worthwhile?
So I've told Steve about... Well, Steve knows about a trip I took to California to Death Valley. And I did almost either seriously bodily harm or death. And I avoided it. Barely.
Do you want to tell that story, actually?
Right now?
Yes,
okay.
Right now.
So, well, I'll do the short version. So, I went to Death Valley by myself on a backpack on a hiking trip. Not backpacking because wasn't able to carry enough water in, so you kind of like camped down by your car and hiked up. And for those of you who don't know, Death Valley is like the size of the state of Connecticut. It is the largest national park in the continental. It's actually the largest national park in North America outside of Alaska, parks in Alaska. It's massive. So, and you don't see anyone. I mean, you can be out on a trail for 2 days and never run into another human. So I went up on this hike that some dude wrote a guidebook about Death Valley, and he's like camped and hiked there for his whole life, and so kind of off track, off the beaten trail places. So I went up, and it was very, very difficult going. It was hot out, very steep. The climbing was over this rock, parts were over this rock that is called, I believe, shale, and it's very slippery. It slips underneath your feet. It's hard. You can't gain traction, and if you grab onto it, it falls away in your hand. It cuts you. So I got to the top because going up is always easier, and then heading down, I went down too fast. I got into what is called a chute. So kind of, I don't know, if you like bent up a piece of paper, right? Like I was in the chute of loose rocks and gravel and rocks that cut you if you grabbed onto them and fell away in your hands, sliding down towards a cliff that went down to the valley floor, probably, I don't know, 100 feet below me. And I was sliding, and I managed to stop myself probably about 25 feet from the lip of the cliff and crawl my way back out. And I finally found the right trail back down, and
but you were completely cut.
I was bleeding all over the place, blood everywhere.
Yeah, so imagine that you know about these chutes. You're on this incredibly slippery, unstable rock, and you start sliding, and you can't stop yourself. And you know there's 100-foot drop below you. You're going to, at a minimum, break your legs and then deal with no one coming to save you. Because
no one probably has been up there in, I don't know, 2 weeks.
Yeah, and he's sliding down this thing, and he has to just jam his hands into as much shale as he can to stop himself, cutting himself up, and stops just 25 feet from the edge. So yeah. That's
I mean, it's different than having cancer because it's short and quick. But when I got back down, finally, I kissed the ground, and I was like very shaken up. And I'm going to remember that for the rest of my life. And it was I honestly think it was a valuable experience. I mean, it was a bad experience, but it made me look at things differently. But I also can't quite point to how it made me act any differently. It was just like a very profound experience. So, like, did it actually change how I act? I don't know, but I'm not quite.
Did it change how you think?
It does, I think, change how I think a little bit.
How so?
I'm open to more. I'm definitely not more cautious. But I'm more open to new experiences, trying different things, like life is short, that whole thing, yada yada. So maybe it does change how I act a little bit. But also, like, I don't know, it's sort of a feeling. It was a very interesting feeling when I got back. I got back, and it was a feeling unlike I've ever had. Like, oh my God, that was a near-death experience. And I don't know how to describe the feeling. It was like immense relief with happiness and also like sadness. I don't know. And I was crying. It was bizarre. It was really bizarre. So I don't know. Just the fact I've experienced that feeling, I kind of like. Again, I mean, it's different than cancer. That if you knew like a month from now you would die, that's a whole month. I had 10 minutes, not a whole month. So, but I think going back to the question, I don't think it would be valuable for a whole month or week or whatever. But there is something valuable, I think, in that feeling, at least for me. So, I have to end it with some funny story, because when I was walking back, I was so cut up, bleeding all over the place. This old couple who were on the main trail looked at me and said, "Oh, where'd you come from?" And I said, I was like up there, and I pointed, and I was so exhausted. And they said, "Oh, do you think we could make it?" And I was like, look at me. I'm bleeding all over the place. And I have dust. I'm covered in dust and blood. And you have a freaking cane. I just looked at them and I said,
"It's a walking stick,
and
sir."
I said, I don't think so.
Oh man.
Anyway.
Oh man, are you done making your drink?
I just need to put some ice in it, and then I'm done.
All right. While you're thinking about that, do you want to think up another number?
You didn't answer that, but we can go on to the next one.
We'll go on to
Let's go on to the next one. That was a long story. Okay, next one. 91.
91. All right. Okay. Terrorists send the president a message saying that unless he gives them $25 billion, they'll detonate a nuclear bomb in Manhattan. What should the president do? What would you do? 25 billion.
Terrorists are so passe. What would I do if I were the president?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's not giving you a binary choice. It's not saying that you either pay them or let the bomb go off. So
no, it's saying what would you do?
The U.S. has one of the best. Well, probably not after China and like Britain, the best security agencies in the world. And I think we could probably find where the bomb is and defuse it. I think that's the track I would take because.
So stall them until.
Yeah, you stall them. You like.
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah, you say yes. You're going to pay them $25 million, and you like print $25 million in counterfeit money. Like I don't know. Like the U.S. is pretty ingenious when it comes to like things like that. I'm sure you could.
Yeah,
come
I
up
think
with
there are a
something.
lot of options. I think the counterfeit dollars is a really viable one, right? So says the movies, right? You could easily provide counterfeit money, then you can distribute information to all the major banks about which money is counterfeit. And sure, the terrorists will get the money, but then as soon as they're in circulation, they can quietly be taken out.
I mean, I bet the U.S. Mint could print some pretty damn good counterfeit money.
Yeah, I'm sure they can. I think what they're trying to get at is the whole question of should you negotiate with terrorists?
I'm not a national security expert, so I really don't know the answer to that question.
Yeah, I'm wholly unqualified to answer this.
I think generally the answer is no, but I don't know.
I don't necessarily agree. Okay, so taking attention on the whole terrorism thing, in certain distraught countries and in distraught areas, what you do is you kidnap someone and then you request money. You make sure that the amount of money is payable, and then that money is paid. You return the kidnapped person, and then you've made a profit. What happens if you actually follow through on that, on the murderous act? So let's say you're threatening to kill someone, you get the money and then you kill them. That's actually very bad for business, right? Because all you have as a terrorist organization is your reputation. So if you build up a reputation for killing people after you've received money, your business dies. So the best terrorist organizations, and by organizations, and by the best I mean the ones that are the most profitable, have an incredibly high reputation for being both very vicious when they don't get the money and consistently giving people back, returning them safely unharmed when they do receive the money. And they always want, because of the business incentive, to be able to extract some kind of information. So constantly negotiating how much someone can actually pay, someone and their extended family and community can actually pay. And so the idea of don't ever negotiate with terrorists has actually been incredibly detrimental to the health of Americans abroad, while being while European countries have understood the market dynamics and actually relented and paid money for a lot of these terrorists and gotten people back. Like, what are you gonna do? You grab a group of people. There's an American there. Fucking kill him. Like, you're not gonna get money from that American, from the government anyway. From the Europeans, you'll actually get money, so they're actually worth keeping and maintaining.
Yes, We should probably, yeah. I'm sure it's also complicated because. Shall we move? I don't want to talk about terrorism right now. I don't want to talk about terrorism. I just talked about almost dying. I don't want to talk about terrorism.
I think the answer to this question, from my perspective, is that there are a lot of different options without actually giving the $25 billion.
Yes.
The risk of giving the $25 billion is fairly obvious. You are setting a precedent that you can make a wild claim like this, regardless of the validity of it, and we don't know the validity of it, and get a very lucrative result. So there are a lot of options from a strategic standpoint that you can take toward trying to get to the bottom of the solution while stalling. And that would obviously be the first step. If you can prove that the bomb is going to detonate and that it actually exists, then it becomes a much more difficult question, in which case I would say that, in my opinion, the loss of human life is unacceptable, especially at the scale of something like Manhattan, and so you should really...
I would probably say, yeah, I agree. Okay.
Next
You question. Pick a number. I want you to pick a number.
Okay. I will pick 128. Okay.
Let's see what Steve comes up with here.
All right, let's see what this says. You, your closest friend, and your father are on vacation together, hiking near a remote lake. Your companions stumble upon a nest of poisonous snakes and are badly bitten. You know neither will live without an immediate full dose of antivenom, yet you only have one dose. What would you do?
Oh, man. Oh, this is bad. So...
Oh, God.
Steve and I are best friends, so I have to answer first.
Go for it. Go.
Well, I have to think. So, oh my. Okay, I would. So my father is 70 years old, so he doesn't have much longer to live. I'm taking a very pragmatic approach to this. And I also strongly believe that if I had to choose one person, he would say, administer it to your best friend. Because they're a lot younger. I personally, I don't know. I don't know if I can make the decision. I may just have to I don't know if I'd be able to make the decision unless my father said, don't administer it to me. And I think he would say that. I'm almost certain. In which case, I would pick my best friend. Slightly cop out.
Yeah, no, it's a similar position for me. I really hope my dad doesn't listen to this, because what I'm going to say is that from a purely pragmatic standpoint, as someone who's in their 20s, like with a best friend in their 20s, and you're looking at the amount of life satisfaction over time, it makes sense to choose the best friend. It would be a super harsh decision to make, and I would want for my dad to live the best possible life no matter what. And I don't know if in the moment I could actually make a decision. Yeah. But the logical part of my brain, the rational part of my brain says that the cost-benefit of analysis states the best friend. And so I would lean toward saying that I would hope to make that decision when the time comes. That is a complicated one. And that is...
I don't know. I'm not sure entirely what I would do unless I was actually in that situation.
Man. Yeah, it's almost impossible to know, right? Because with a lot of things, you can rationalize everything all you want, and then the moment comes to you, and who knows what will happen.
I don't. It's almost like, what would you feel? It's like the logical decision and the one you should make, which I think is giving it to your best friend. And then there's the one you'll feel more guilty about. I think I would feel more guilty letting my father die. I don't know, like personal, because he's given so much to me.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Right?
I know what you mean.
I don't know.
There's a special place that family holds that's just, you can't really replace that. It's something.
I feel guilty both ways, of course, but.
Of course, yeah.
Okay. Well, that was a deep question.
So you're gonna let me die, huh?
Hey, now, you didn't give much better answer.
All right, next question. That was a brutal one. I say we do 2 more questions, then we wrap this up. What's the question?
279.
279. All right, let's see what we have here. It's just kind of boring.
Skip it?
No, I will say it and then I will rephrase it. If you thought that being cryogenically frozen after you died would give you a chance of being brought back to life in a century or 2, would you choose that instead of burial or cremation? Assume the costs were identical. If not, why not? And here's the way I'm going to switch it. We're going to get rid of the assumption thing. Would you rather be cryogenically frozen after you died or go through burial or cremation? Assume the costs are identical. Why or why not?
Well, okay. Now you are not sentient when you're cryogenically frozen. That's correct. I don't know anything about it.
Definitely not. So it basically just slows down all of the biological activity in your body, but also it leads to a high risk of issues with things like rapid freezing and crystallization, so like cell puncturation and stuff like that. There's actually not a lot of evidence that shows that you can actually freeze someone and bring them back successfully.
So in that case, I'd rather be buried or cremated because I do not want to come back in extreme pain and with some severe mental issues. So until we actually know it works.
I've already had those, so I'm good with it. Yeah. No, but my opinion is this. Hey, if there's any kind of technology at all that gives me even a slim chance that in the future they can wake me up, give me that. Fuck the whole set of traditions and religions. I will take more cognitive experience being alive over any kind of historical tradition. And so, for me, I would say, whatever it is, however outlandish it is, do it. If I'm going to die regardless.
Well, now, if I could come back and, if it was clear when I wrote it, if it was clear that if I was in pain when I came back, you just kill me instantly, then I'd be okay with that. I'm just worried, like waking up and not being something seriously wrong, which is completely and probably likely, right? Given today's technology.
Oh, most definitely, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, I don't like uncontrollable. I'd rather be dead than have like uncontrollable pain. I don't. That scares me. I don't know.
Death is final, and there's no coming back from that. There's always a potential from coming back from uncontrollable pain. And so because of that, I'm not saying that I would go for the uncontrollable pain over death. I'm just saying that I'm not as clear-cut in terms of my decision as you are. Okay, one last question.
Oh, okay. Starts with a 2.
All right.
Ends in a 6, and the middle number is 8.
286. Yes. All right. Let's see what that is.
It's really hard to think of random numbers.
Okay. Can I start with the first half of this question?
Is it a good question?
And then hear your answer and then give you the second half of the question.
On.
Would you like to be president of the United States?
Yes.
Why?
Because I don't have... In terms of my work, you may think I have a big ego. Maybe you don't. I don't know.
I don't think you have a big ego. I think you're a pretty well positioned.
Okay. So in that case, I really
rational person.
Don't have a big ego, and I think I'm very charming when I need to be, which means, and I am extremely pragmatic. And those two things together, I think, make a really good president. And I also don't want to be president, which makes me think I should be president. Could be a good president, which makes me think I would say yes to that question. I also think, Steve and I have talked about this before, I think those types of civil servant positions are so different than other jobs because you're not you anymore. You have to be... It's not like if you're in a normal job. It's it's your interests. There's nothing to do with your interests, right? And I think... I mean, in the ideal form, right? I'm not saying it's like that, but in the ideal form, it should be like that. And I think some presidents have reached that.
Not
currently
anyway.
It's not. And I really believe it is a sacrifice to make. And I like that idea, and I'm okay with doing that.
Well, here's the thing, right? I think that you, Scott, are someone who tries very hard to think about problems and issues beyond your own certain perspectives, your own beliefs, and the way that affects your life. I think that's a very rare and valuable skill. I don't think that you can cash it in for a lot of points in most jobs, but I do think that is incredibly valuable for someone who is in a larger management position where the position is motivated by public good. And so in that sense, I agree. I think you would be totally unqualified as of now to become president. I don't think you would do a good job.
Well,
but I think that the underlying
I can do a better
motivations...
job than President Trump, and I can say that with all honesty.
That I will back 100%.
A dog
but
could do
I do
better
think
than
that...
Oh God, never mind. Let's not go into that.
A monkey rolling dice. But I do think that you have that underlying what's the word that I'm looking for? The system of motivation, right? The second part of the question is, what if you knew that 1 in 4 people would despise you by the time you left office? Pretty sure I know the answer to this. Yeah, I figured that.
1 in 4? That's actually really good. I'd be happy with 3 and 4.
So my position on this is one of confusion. Uncertainty is a better word for it. I don't know if I would be the kind of person that should lead. Okay, so the reason I say this is that, well, there are a couple of reasons, but the main one is that I can be very short-minded, right? So I can see effective solutions to a problem, but only on the short term and not think about the long-term impacts of that. And I think that that's something that a lot of people face. I think it's a little bit harder to be self-aware of that. But I think it's important to be self-aware of that and try hard to counteract that. But I think that's something that I face. I'm also pretty selfish. So that's not always necessarily beneficial for someone who becomes president. And also, why would I want to be president? Right? I'm a selfish person. I want to have a reasonable life. Being president does not give you a good life.
It's a bad life.
It does not give you a quality mental state. Let's say it makes it. So let me just come out and say this: the notion of a president is, frankly, ridiculous and comes from a time of monarchy, right? So the idea of a supreme leader, which we have checks and balances for, but we also, over the last 60 years have progressively increased the capacity of the executive branch, and it's led more and more to a philosophical understanding among the American populace of the president having a lot more power than the other branches of government, and to this romanticized notion of a president being able to solve our problems. And it is frankly ridiculous and not the kind of responsibility that anyone would ultimately fail with, but that I personally would want to try to uphold. So no, from a purely selfish standpoint, I would not want to be president. I don't deserve to be president, and I don't have the values that someone like Scott has, because I'm a super selfish person, to be able to actively take on that kind of role in a truly effective way. And I say this knowing that I have a lot of strong opinions about what the right way to rule is for a large majority of people, but having a severe lack of confidence in my ability to uphold those rules, given the changing dynamics and potential opportunities that would come to me if I rose up in higher office. So that's my opinion.
There was a quote once I heard, and it goes something like this: "It's really good. It's bad to have weak opinions strongly held. Once you can't back up a whole lot, but you really believe in."
Yeah. You need strong opinions weakly held.
Strong opinions weakly held. You can have really powerful emotions and powerful thoughts and powerful feelings about certain things, but that you're open to hearing new opinions, new perspectives, new facts, and changing your perspective. And I think for anyone in a leadership position, be it the president or like the head of a coffee shop, that is really important to have, because if you go in with your own knowledge and saying everything I know and everything I do is golden, that's not great, because there are millions of people out there who have different perspectives and opinions and facts than you do. There are no alternative facts, who know facts that you don't. And you need to understand what their background and knowledge is in order for you to make a better decision on how to serve them. And I think the fact of the matter is that you don't yourself have to possess that trait to be a good leader. You just have to know that you lack it, or lack certain aspects of it, and then surround yourself with people who can make those decisions for you. Because there's this big quoted 10 million times in different ways, and no one ever originally said this quote, but a good leader is all about the people who they hire. It's not about them specifically. It's about the people you rely on for support, who build,
that is so
who support your
important,
who support your deficits. And it's about having to not have an ego and not think you know everything in the room, and hire people. And you can have that ego publicly. If it's part of your public brand, if it's part of your company's public brand or your nation's public brand, maybe you can have that ego and that perspective when you're out in the public. But in private, and this is actually very interesting because I've been working I'm in HR, and I'm a little higher up in HR in my organization. And it's really interesting. Like, you can have debate and dialogue internally and say, who knows what, and we don't know this, and I don't know this, and maybe this person can help. But when you go and present your idea to your constituents, to your customers, you have to act like it's one voice, it's coming from you. Because if you go out to your constituents and start acting like it's coming from 10 different places, that makes you seem very weak. So that actually is a fascinating thing about me with the presidency is, yes, you have this public persona of like knowing everything, but you actually don't know anything. And you're just you're the vessel for all these good ideas, and they help you come to the correct conclusion as best as you think, and you go out and present that idea. I think the most challenging part for a president is when there's two competing ideas that are equally valid, and you have to make up the decision. I think that's the hardest. And I don't know how often that actually happens. I think a lot of times there is like overwhelming evidence on one side or the other to support one perspective or the other based on their current context and political party. But I'm sure there are situations where it's like, we don't know the decision. Like this side, it's like a coin toss. Pick a head, pick a tail. We don't know. And that position as a president, I think, is why, not why they're paid a lot, because they are actually paid a lot, but why it has such prestige is that you have to make a decision, and the buck stops literally with you, and you have to decide.
Yeah, that level of responsibility.
And then you have to live with it.
Yeah, that's something. Yeah, and I think a lot of that applies beyond the presidency.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Everywhere.
I think especially when it comes to having an open mind and being able to understand that your opinion, no matter how strongly you hold it, is, first off, not necessarily true. And also, I think this is really important, not who you are. Mm-hmm. Because I think a lot of people have this misguided notion that their identity is tied up in their beliefs, in their opinions. And when they hear these opinions that go against what they believe, what they've been taught to believe, they see it as a personal attack, an attack against their identity, attack against who they are. And it's really important, if you want to be a good leader, someone who can effectively look at the facts and try as best as possible to objectively look at possible solutions, that you don't tie up your notion of your personal identity with your certain opinions at a particular time, because your opinions are subject to change, and the facts that you see should be assessed for their value and their effectiveness to shift your understanding of a model of truth, and not based on whether or not they adhere to and conform to your current model of how the world works, or how morality works, or how anything else works. So it's really important. I do think that we're starting to hit a limit here, and so I want to wrap this up. What do you think of doing an episode?
I think some of the questions were a little well, here's the thing. I think with Steve and I answering these questions in this book we're not answering them maybe in the way the author originally intended them to be answered. But I thought it was pretty fun. I thought some of them were not great. Some of them were really interesting. Some of them more profound than they actually had meant to be. I think it was a good last question. I think it was an interesting last question.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe we'll do it again. Maybe we won't. Who knows?
Yeah, I think this was a good experiment. We were able to get some content out of it. Who knows if it was any good? And I hope that in the future, we might be able to address this again. I think that we will put this on the shelf, and if we run out of topics, we might pull this out, and we might ask a few more questions and do the same format again. We've seen what it's done, and, we are pleasantly optimistic, haven't done the editing yet, that we'll be able to scrounge a podcast out of this. So hopefully we'll be able to do that, and maybe in the future, if we're desperate on content, we will bring it up again. So, all right. Have a good one, Scott. Talk to you later.